Right, we are back. It is Monday, October 30th. We had a brief executive session. We opened the meeting at 5:30. It is now shortly after 6, and we've got Jason Frazier here from the Plympton. He's our rep for Silver Lake Regional School Committee to discuss a proposed solar project at Silver Lake Regional High School. So welcome, Jason.
Silver Lake Regional School District has been exploring new ways to generate revenue from our end to try and help offset some of the costs to our member towns. We currently have a power purchase agreement, which generally brings us between $100,000 and $200,000 a year. This is one of the ways that we've been able to refund our excess and deficiencies, which is a fund we have as a regional school. We've been using that money over the past couple of years to help offset some of our capital plan budget, and we've been able to replenish almost every single dollar we've taken out of that E&D fund. Our research has brought us to another solar project. Our power purchase program is a solar farm that's down on the south coast. We've been looking into the idea of potentially putting in solar canopies, almost like carports of old, that would be able to have solar panels on the top in the parking lots of Silver Lake High School and Silver Lake Middle School. We've been working with a company recently called Select. I'll spell it for you. SOLECT. They've given us some preliminary ideas of where they would like to put the solar panels. And with their conceptual art, it would produce about 2 megawatts of energy. Now that is 2 times larger than the largest carport solar farm that currently exists in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. We've done some legal research to find out whether or not we can lease that land and undergo this project, and we found that we would need to file special legislation in order to move forward with a lease for the solar panels. So we are posting a public meeting for November 9th to hear any input from the public on pros and cons of this project. And if we do vote yes to move forward with the special legislation, it obviously does not bind the school committee into moving forward all the way with this project. We also have to be very careful because this project isn't going to be feeding electricity directly into our school. In some cases, when you feed electricity directly into your school, there's more leeway with these kinds of back to Silver Lake High School or Silver Lake Middle School. This would be purely a revenue-generating idea. So that's why I came before you today. I wanted you guys to have a heads up and some time to process this before our meeting on November 9th.
So you'd put up these panels.
Correct.
The cars would park underneath.
Correct.
Who's parking? Is this student parking?
This would be the student parking lot. Yes, sir. We've already checked into who would be responsible for any damage to the solar canopies. We also looked into who would be liable if a student decided to come after the school district if they got in a bad accident. And this is all under the solar canopy company. As part of the lease, we would not be held liable for the accidents in Silver Lake's parking lot.
And they've done this in other places?
They've done it before. It's not to the same scale we're looking at right now. Like I said, we would be the largest by far in the state. But that's due in large part to the size of our parking lots, not because we're trying to put it in every nook and cranny. Part of what we really want from them, and they're not willing to do it until we get a little bit further down the path, is we want a conceptual rendering that shows the aesthetics as well.
Yeah.
We're very concerned that it doesn't just look like a black mass.
Will this shrink the parking that you have presently?
It absolutely will not make us lose any parking spaces at all with the way that they have these designed. It's amazing. It's basically 2-foot steel and concrete stanchion that can support the weight of the entire canopy. We were concerned about snow removal. We didn't know if the weight was going to cause problems with the panels or if it was going to slide off and make large piles that we couldn't handle. But we've seen some of the actual panels, and they have pictures during snowstorms and the snow removal. It actually can lessen the amount of time for snow removal in some cases. We thought the plows were going to have to go in and out, but since it comes up off a central stanchion, there's nothing in between the parking spaces at all that would get in the way of the plow.
Interesting.
It's not like these ones that rotate, though.
No.
It's stationary.
Yeah, there's no smart component to these panels. They don't track the direction of the sun. They just set them up for optimal angle.
Sure.
And they're stationary from that point.
Okay.
So I'd love to know a revenue number so I could tell you, but we haven't gotten to that point yet. But
No
the
rough
fact,
estimates, nothing?
I hesitate to tell you any estimates at this
Okay.
point because they're still back of the napkin type numbers. The numbers I'm hearing, though, would make quite a bit of a difference, especially in the capital plan. And as many of you know, the capital plan for Silver Lake Regional School has a lot to do with what we had done a few years ago. It's called the Building Envelope Study. We were basically looking at water infiltration on the roof and on the outside of the building. There was some major areas of concern, and the estimate we received to repair all that damage was $2 million just to take care of that, never mind all the other ongoing projects we have at such a large regional school. So this would go a long way in taking, some of the scary numbers that we see, that we keep pushing down the road a little bit. It would be much more manageable with projects like this and revenue streams if we can continue to find them.
So after you have your public hearing, what happens next?
After the public hearing, we'll file the special legislation. Once we get the special legislation, Select is going to then produce for us a more conceptual rendering, a more artistic conceptual rendering, where we can look at the aesthetics, we can find out exactly the amount of megawatts we'll get. We might cut back on this too, because we might not want solar panels in certain areas just because of the look. That's when they'll be able to give us more of a direct number that we can speak to, and then we can weigh the pros and the cons of having this project, versus.
Will the towns, the selectmen and boards get a chance at some point in this to revisit it? Or once the public hearing's held, is that it? Your Silver Lake Committee takes over?
Do you have concerns about the project per se, or do you just want input on the aesthetics? Do you want input? I'd need
Aesthetics
to.
probably, but I mean, it just sounds good, but
I don't think it's really going to be our call.
Okay,
It's the
okay.
Silver Lake Regional School Committee's call. This
Okay.
is just.
I mean, I would love to bring any of your concerns, any of your comments back and forth between the committee. I am on the committee. It's the Buildings and Grounds Committee, basically, that's running with this, not the whole committee in general.
yeah, well, that's fine. The aesthetics, sure, but you guys are gonna, now Eversource, is that who's gonna have to tie into this?
So that's going to be on Select's end, depends who they have agreements with to purchase the power.
Yeah, I mean, the physical, actual wiring though will go through
Probably it'd be
Eversource.
wired into the local grid, which is Eversource, correct?
So aside from aesthetics, I presume the safeguards escrow accounts for taking it down in 25 years when it's obsolete has been considered, will be considered.
Absolutely. We're the first regional school district to go after a project like this, but there's been many municipalities and many schools in Massachusetts who've worked with this company and other companies that use similar boilerplate language to make sure that we're not held liable 20 years from now to dismantle all of this machinery and
That's a
contraptions.
biggie, when it's junk and it's just sitting there and they're long gone, or the organizing company.
Right.
It's a biggie.
So I have seen that language in the contracts that we've been discussing so far, but obviously I haven't seen the language specifically for us.
And so, along those lines, other schools and organizations have done this. Have you heard of any downsides, or are there particular problems or weaknesses that have come up so far?
There's been lots of pros, of course, because we've been talking to the companies. We've also been talking to schools and municipalities who've had these somewhere between 2 and 5 years. You really can't find much information about the longer run, because this is such a new technology and a new idea. So no, Mark, I haven't been able to find too many cons. People are telling me that their dashboards aren't cracking and fading as much. Getting into the car in the afternoon, it's not getting all that solar gain and the greenhouse effect because of the solar canopy. I'm sure there's some reasons why people wouldn't want to do this. The number one concern we have is we don't want to mar the beautiful campus we have currently up there.
Yeah, it's one of those almost sounds too good to be true, and sometimes it really is. The aesthetics, I'm sure that's going to be the big trade-off. I mean, we'll lose something. It sounds like what may be gained may be worth it.
That's our hope. And we already have some other regional school districts contacting us, and Kingston was at one of our last meetings where we spoke about it, and Mary McKinnon, their finance committee chair, said, we're going to be watching this 100% because if it works for you guys, we're going to be looking to do it in Kingston as well.
When does your power agreement expire, your current power agreement?
I don't have that information in front of me right now.
Just wonder if when it does expire, if you could somehow get into this electricity so that you are feeding yourself from the solar panels. I mean, your agreement probably lasts, what, another couple of years anyway?
I would
maybe even
expect
longer?
it's probably 5 to 10 more years.
Okay.
And with how good that power purchase agreement has been to us, and if we can capitalize on a second project as well, if we can keep them both moving forward and generating that revenue for Silver Lake Regional Schools, I would love to expand beyond just those two ideas. It just seems that solar seems to be a niche we understand. We have some board members who can wrap their heads around these ideas and the contracts. And so far, all of our other ideas are basically buying us pencils and paper clips. These are actually moving numbers.
Sounds good, really does.
Yeah, it does sound good, and anything that you can do to help us control your expenses, and this sounds like it could be a really good opportunity
Great.
to help us with our budgets and control our budgets as well.
Well, I have another piece of information. I know that Superintendent Blackwood sent this to the Finance Committee. I'm not sure if you've gotten to see the Department of Revenue numbers yet for our assessments. Plympton's assessment, because we have more students at the Silver Lake Regional Schools, is going to go up next year.
Okay.
I believe last year we were about 11.6%, and I believe next year we're going to be 12.2%.
Okay.
And again, if I do that on the back of a napkin, I believe that's a $200,000 increase potentially. And that's if we kept this year's numbers exactly where they are.
Okay.
This, again, is one of the reasons why we previously had a Silver Lake Regional School Stabilization Fund. It was voted in by town meeting. It was then voted out subsequently by town meeting as well. We've had years where our assessments dropped, and those years makes it easier on the town to absorb some costs in some other departments. And unfortunately, the pendulum always swings back. And I'm pretty sure we're not going to be a zero-based budget for next year's school budget as well.
Well, thank you for that news.
All the more important for us to be generating revenue from alternate streams.
Right.
Absolutely. Any other questions for
No,
Jason?
No, good.
So your meeting is November 9th.
November 9th.
Is it in the library?
It is,
Okay.
at the high school. It's up.
Library at the high school.
Are we going to do it upstairs? I have to get back to you on that one.
Okay.
It's at the high school because we realize there's probably going to be quite a few people who are interested in the project.
Okay.
We're hoping to have some of the conceptual art, even though it's still the rougher versions.
Okay.
And there will be a presentation made, and then obviously we'll ask for input from the public.
Terrific.
Any,
Oh, I was just going to say, when you firm down the details, do you want to shoot us an email? We'll put it on the website so people know.
That'd
if
be great.
they're
Thank you.
interested.
I appreciate
Perfect.
that
Okay, a
courtesy.
flyer or something. Okay.
any one school you can point us to that has this?
Let me get you that information as well. I just got power back 10 minutes ago, so,
Oh,
Well,
got it
that's
though.
exciting.
Great.
and I worked all day with no power, so I was kind of behind the 8 ball. I apologize for
No,
not
no,
having all the
no.
facts for you tonight.
Nope,
No.
nope, no.
But let me do my homework, and I'll get you some of that information so you can look into
I'd
it.
just like to see a picture of it.
Absolutely. And that's how we really got into the project was by Googling images and then actually taking some field trips and driving down and seeing some of the parking lots.
Interesting. Sounds good.
Thank you very much for your time. I
Thank you for
appreciate it.
coming.
Thank
Thanks
you.
for
All right,
the
thanks, Jason.
creative efforts.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it sounds
My
neat.
pleasure.
It does sound neat. Okay, so we don't have any more appointments today. Updates and discussion, town coordinator, we are in contract negotiations with Elizabeth Dennehy. Additional phone line installation, town administrator office.
I asked Bree to do that. When we had the town coordinator, Bree ended up being answering the phone. It just seemed ridiculous in this day and age. Let's have a separate line that goes to the town administrator.
Okay, so we're still working on that?
Yeah, so
Okay,
she's off doing that.
all right, so we can hold that one.
So Bree's working on that.
Yeah.
Actually, there's something in correspondence about that.
Oh, okay.
Maybe we'll circle back to that.
Perfect, okay. Fire and EMS consultant MRI,
So we've set up the interviews. Us three have been interviewed.
right?
And we'll move forward. Next Saturday is the next interviews here with people who are actually coming here. The balance of them, about 6, 7, 8 people will be done by phone.
Terrific. I look forward to the report.
So just one comment on that. I had my chance to meet with Mr. Loomer, and he asked for the fire chief's last contract. And
Yes, I have it.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna have Bree.
I sent it along to him, actually.
Oh, great.
The thing that
Okay.
came up is he actually asked for a job description, and
did.
I was a little stumped because I knew we had dealt with that, but couldn't find it. And actually, when I pulled up the contract, the job description is embedded in the contract. So, so I sent that along, so
Thank
he's
Perfect.
got that.
Great.
Terrific. All right, Plympton gravel permit application. Do you want to do this tonight, or do you want to hold it until Bree gets back? I thought what you came up with looked really good, Mark.
Yeah, maybe, since this was Bree's concern, so maybe we want to bring that up
All right,
again
so
next
let's
week.
hold this.
I mean, just or in preparing the soil for the conversation, I think until we have, I couldn't find any earth removal bylaw language, so there's not so much we can put into it until we do it. And so I just grabbed what seemed like reasonable and
I
to
looked at
garner.
Middleborough's and I was staggered by the
You-
amount. Yeah, I mean, they must have 20, 25 pages.
That's,
And I think that's the problem sometimes we get into. So in any event, I just grabbed stuff out of the Middleborough one and the Halifax one, sort of with the view of we're going to sit here making a decision without a bylaw to guide us, so just having enough information to be on top of it.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll come back to it next week.
sounds
Okay.
good. All right, Winnetoxet swimming hole suggestions to rename.
This is a little like writing an earth removal bylaw that becomes 25 pages. This came up last week. I asked for a chance to bring it before the Community Preservation Committee because we had spent some time on that when we did the renovation project. Honestly, I think everyone is stumbling all over this. Some of the possibilities that came up, we did, when we did the CPA-funded project, put up a sign noting that this was the site of the old Plympton cotton factory, which is all wonderful, but I think if we called this the old Plympton Cotton Factory Pond, none of us would know what it was. Other possibilities that got floated was the old Winnetoxet swimming hole. I could sort of buy that one. Another one that came up is the Winnetoxet fishing hole, because actually when CPC did the renovation over there, the intent was, and in fact the first steps were done, to renovate the pond so that it could be a fishing hole. So and then, of course, the question came up is who has naming rights? And I did hear from someone on planning board, well, we name streets, so, but I think probably we, the Board of Selectmen, have the shot at this.
Can I add one more?
Yeah, please.
Winnetoxet Recreation Area. That was the one.
That one came up. There was not a great deal of
Hey, it's
enthusiasm.
mine.
I'll add one too. How about Winnetoxet Cotton Mill Pond?
Now, that one,
Because it kind of captures what it is now, but what it, it might be easier to
It might take 20 years, though, to.
catch on.
Yeah, for a lot of us are going to have to die out.
Well, what we could do is put a monkey survey up.
Yeah, like we did for the housing, yeah.
Just say, hey,
So I don't know how to move this further along any further. We redid the CPC plan last week, and there are about 5 pictures of the darn swimming hole, all with different labels, and we didn't come to any conclusions, so.
But all with the same sign that
I would
says no
like to get
swimming?
rid of swimming, though, because it
There's
gets
no
to be.
swimming allowed.
Exactly, and it gets to be a little irritant that, with some people, it was the swimming hole that we did away with.
It's a little paradoxical. I sort of like that part, but, so I don't know where to go with that. Maybe we just leave it up in the air for a while. The Winnetoxet Cotton Mill Pond, or the Winnetoxet Old Cotton Mill, that one makes sense. It's just going to take a long time for people to learn.
And it's a mouthful.
Yeah, it is. Why don't we let that sit for a little while?
Yeah.
Let's,
Yeah,
we'll keep working on it.
all right. Let's put that one, do you want to put that on the parking lot?
We'll put that in the parking lot, and if there are ideas out there, the collective wisdom of the community would be.
It might be kind of fun to have a naming contest.
We could sell naming rights. This would become an income source.
Right, right,
Okay.
for $5. All right, housing production plan survey deadline. The survey deadline is tomorrow, end of day, and so far we have 82 people who have responded. So
Wow.
thank you to everyone who has responded.
Great.
We've got some really excellent participation and suggestions in there and ideas, so thank you to everyone who has helped out with their input on that. It's really appreciated. And we will review the results at our meeting on November 1st with the OCPC consultant. And we are getting close to a final housing production plan. We were just waiting for these survey results and tweaking some language. So after Wednesday, I'll have drafts for you guys to review
Great.
too.
Great.
And maybe even planning board as well. If you have anybody else that you think should take a look at it, we can certainly do that.
And so what you're going to have for us is the initial plan or survey results?
This will be, we're gonna have the survey results, 11/1. We can discuss what our goals and strategies are so far in the plan. It's, we've got 4 goals, and then there's strategies with all of the goals. So that's what we'll go over on Wednesday, and then we'll get that draft to you guys to review, and planning board and anybody else for a round of suggestions, and we'll get this tightened up so we have it finished by the end of the year.
So that's going to be filmed Wednesday night. I'm
Filmed
actually
Wednesday night.
real interested in the survey results and just see what comes out.
Yeah,
So-
well, I can
would-
definitely email those to you. I've got the results so far for the questions. I can certainly send those to you.
be
The
great.
82 people, it is interesting to read it. So I've got those on my, via email, so I'll send them to you.
Thank you.
All right, town council time request from Public Safety Building Committee for project manager's front-end supplemental conditioning document.
So sorry, it's a long sentence, that's mine. At the Public Safety Building Committee meeting last Wednesday night, the OPM is getting to the place that he writes the document that kind of lists what every screw and every nail is like, and there apparently needs to be in the back of that some legal document that's a very standard thing. But he thinks he'll need an hour or possibly 2 hours of town council time to write that thing. So this is essentially a request for an hour or 2 of town council time. That's all built into the public safety building budget, and so we wrote out a request here, and so I'd make a motion that we grant up to 2 hours for that document to get ready.
I'll second.
All right, all in favor? Aye.
So I'll pass
Money well
that on.
spent.
And I'll let Colleen know, and she'll let him know.
Perfect. All right, so that's everything under updates and discussions. Now on to correspondence.
Wow, okay. All right, big breath. A letter from the Massachusetts Municipal Association reminding us that they send out action alerts in bold letters, and these are things that town officials need to know about right away, and reminding us this is the main tool they have to inform us on stuff that needs action. And actually, I'm glad they did this, because with the flood of stuff that comes in, sometimes it gets a little lost, and I think the words action alert from MMA means that there's something, really something there. From the Commonwealth of Massachusetts Department of Public Utilities, a notice of filing and public hearing on some solar projects going through NSTAR. I don't see any on the list that are even in Massachusetts, so I don't think maybe that relates to us directly right now. A letter and documents from the Mass Cultural Council asking us to sign the contract. They give us something over $4,000. The scope of the services and budgets are to maintain a revolving account for local and regional cultural council, and to fund a report that is sent annually to the Massachusetts Cultural Council. So I make a motion that we authorize the signing of this form, and so we are able to get the funds.
I'll second. All in favor?
Aye. This looks like that's going to be for you right there, I
Okay,
think.
thank you.
So, this is a letter from the Plympton Council on Aging, from Joy Marble, saying that the Council on Aging would like to be a host agency for the Citizens for Citizens program. This is funded by a grant, and what it consists of is a training program for seniors who are 55 or older and make under $15,000 a year. They, through the program, they can work 20 hours a week at $11 per hour. The position would include being a receptionist and helping with Meals on Wheels. I want to just make sure, the note from Bree says this is a grant that Joy Marble came across that would pay for someone to do the 20 hours a week. The program will pay 20 hours per week. Yeah, that's what it is.
So what is the person going to be doing again?
Receptionist and helping with Meals on Wheels.
Does that mean delivering or putting together? or-
The next email is more about that. I think there are two pieces to that. One is kind of preparing the packets, which is the next request, and delivering them. I think, actually, why don't I go on to that one, and that
Okay.
maybe explain it. So this is another one from the COA Director, Joy Marble. Council on Aging would like permission to use the break room as a Meals on Wheel prep site beginning this month. It would include receiving prepackaged food from the Old Colony Elder Services driver Monday through Friday at 11 a.m., and the food would be packed in bags and coolers, and then our volunteer on Meals on Wheels drivers would pick it up and deliver it.
Is that enough room in the break room?
Yeah. I would have no problem as long as it didn't stop our,
Employees
Townhouse.
from using the
Right.
break room.
So those are two requests, one that I guess we have to approve this, this grant. that would pay 20 hours per week. 20 hours per week at $11 an hour for a senior citizen.
The only thing I would want to know is, a lot of these grants, they give you, and then when the grant expires, you have to continue them.
Which is what I'm stumbling on and reading the words here is at one point it's talking about training, and what we don't want to do is train people and be on the hook for something that we don't have in the budget.
Right.
You know what, Joy is attending our meeting on Wednesday. We're meeting with her first at 6. How about if I ask her for more
Okay.
information
You have a
then?
meeting on Wednesday?
No, with our meeting with OCPC.
Oh, okay.
The consultant's
That
at
would be
7,
good.
Joy's
Yes.
at 6.
Great.
So I can find out
So-
a little bit more information.
Yeah.
So we'll put a hold on both of
Yeah.
those
Perfect.
until we
Yeah,
know
can
more?
I have those?
Yeah,
Perfect.
absolutely.
Thank you.
And, all right, this is from the Chair of the Board of Health seeking another front door key for a member who needs to get in at times. So I guess we can have Bree take care of
Make
it.
a motion that we allow that.
Yep.
Okay, I'll second. All in favor?
Aye. Okay. This is the information on the extra phone line that Bree's working on. She's been in touch with Verizon, and this gets into a little the type of line that has to be dealt with. So I think Bree's
I
on
didn't
top of
realize
it.
this was going to be such a
Such a
big
big
deal when I
deal, I
asked.
know.
I think, remember the days when you just made a call and the guy came by and put a line in?
Yeah.
This is actually pretty good news. This is the notification of free cash approval by Department of Revenue. General fund free cash, $649,000, which is probably a pretty good sign.
It's
And,
Yeah.
about twice what we had last year.
yeah, that's
That's excellent.
healthy. Actually, I want to be careful that it doesn't get to be too much, I think, right? Aren't there
Right.
best practices that there's a certain range?
Well, the best practice is it will go towards capital expenditures. It will no longer go towards operating budget.
Right.
um,
Yeah,
Good.
One-time expenditures.
But
Yeah.
apparently it's over my dead body.
Good work.
Apparently, we're there.
So this is from the fire chief. He is declaring 2 items in inventory out of service, the 2003 Ford Explorer and the United Fire Service compressor are both out of service.
So what does that mean?
Good question.
Is he wanting to sell them?
I
Or,
I
think,
think there's surplus, I think, at least in the case of the Explorer, I think it's surplus, and I know from talking to the fellows uptown, they say don't spend a cent on it, just
so we'll auction it like we, or do
probably
bids like
drive
we
it to
did?
drive it to a scrap iron
Okay.
place and get what we can.
Okay,
okay.
I don't know about anything about the compressor.
Well, I'll check with him and see if there's intent on fixing it or
what the plan is,
yeah.
right?
compressor. Okay.
Yeah, and if the Ford's surplus, we'll have to vote that and authorize him to
Get rid of it.
take it off the road and get
Yeah.
rid of it.
So this is from the Assistant Assessor Deborah Stewart, dated October 24th, announcing her resignation effective November 7th, which is this week or
So
next week.
does that mean that's her last day, or is that when the 2 weeks starts?
No, I think
nope.
it's effective.
My
that's the
formal
ending
notice
date.
of resignation effective November 7th.
Okay,
And we have a meeting with the assessors, an
Tonight.
executive session at 7:30 to deal with some of that. This is the latest bill from K&P. I had a chance to look at it. One very minor thing, the very first item lists the Community Preservation Committee, and it's about a very brief phone conversation with a member of the Conservation Commission, but that first line should read Conservation Commission, not Community Preservation Committee. It doesn't matter because it comes out of our budget anyway.
Okay.
It's for $34, but I just make a note of it.
Okay.
There is in there, just out of interest, the September fees for Zero Winnetoxet, which are another $2,000.
wow. What have we spent so far on that, do you
There
know?
was 5 previous, so this brings us to 7.
Wow, Just goes to show how one incident can really do a number on the legal bill. for the
And that
services.
balance that I think, is kind of going on, the discussion going on in the bylaws committee is kind of going on with us, is wanting to enforce rules and coming to see that enforcing rules in a balanced and fair way potentially is very expensive.
Certainly is this year.
And maybe will influence what we have to ask for when we get to budget time.
Yes, for
Well,
sure.
And the importance of what we've been working on too, which is kind of talking about things ahead of time and not with the preventative medicine with legal, that same kind of idea is trying to make the right decision from the get-go to help avoid this.
Yep. Wow, sort of at the end of the pile. So Plympton Halifax Express, lots of good stuff in there. The reminder about the housing survey, if anyone's listening, there's one more day. Christine and her committee are doing a wonderful job. Boy, those surveys become almost unduly important along the way, so it's a big chance to really influence what's going on. Really cool picture of our incoming town administrator. Looks alert and bright and ready to go to work. All right, sunrise tomorrow at 7:15.
So
The acronyms thing, I heard more talk around town about.
I heard lots of LOL.
There you go. There's a nice picture about the Halifax Triad and a dog that's really working hard and looks like he's having a really good time at it. There is the announcement about the Plympton Assistant Assessor. I do notice that the Planning Board has a public hearing notice for November 20th for potentially another solar project by Borrego at 61 Upland Road.
Did they ever contact you?
Not a word.
Okay.
And if solar's gonna heat up, it'll be wonderful if the new town administrator's along, because that's something she should be really up to speed on, and will be much better at it than I could
Especially
ever
those
be.
ones that churn now.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, because there's no height limitation in our solar bylaws right now.
And with relief, I can report that completes correspondence.
Terrific. Okay, dates to remember, we are meeting next week, which is 11/6. We're meeting 11/13, 11/20, and 11/27, so every Monday this week. But it says, Veterans Day is it Friday or Saturday?
I think it's a Thursday, actually.
It's Thursday? Okay. And so we're not gonna be closed the following Monday?
For Veterans Day?
Yeah.
No, it's only when they come on Sundays.
Okay. All right, and then Townhouse will be closed 11/23 for Thanksgiving
Thanksgiving.
already.
Hard to believe.
I know, crazy.
While we're
Crazy.
talking about townhouse closed, we need to talk about warming
Yeah.
schedule?
I think there's been a policy in the past that says during storms, the townhouse would remain
Sure.
open. And we did have a lady come in today and needed the electricity to do some work. The question is, what happens after, like tonight, when we close the meeting? Nobody's here.
Right?
And I think in the past, well, particularly with the winter storms, the Emergency Preparedness Committee kind of makes the decision on that. I'm not sure that's the exact name.
Yeah.
When one of us, you, fire, and police and highway sit together, yeah?
Mhm.
We haven't done that. So I guess for tonight, everybody's on their own, but it does seem like we need to have a conversation of how that should be handled.
You would think that the fire might be over here. I mean, they don't have power in their little trailer, do they?
Gee, I don't know. That's a
Yeah,
good
I was
question.
thinking of that today.
I didn't think of that.
Yeah, I would think that they would be here. I mean, it certainly
We
would
need
be
to-
warmer
We should be
here.
talking to Warren about, maybe this becomes the
Right,
the home, storm home
right,
in those cases, yeah.
right.
I mean, historically, even in the worst of storms, it's been incredibly underused. I
Yeah.
mean, that time we had a big storm and there's several days without power, I think we had one woman that came in with her kitty cats, and they are all warm and comfy, and I think it was about the only person that
Yeah.
came in. People come in these days more to charge their device
right,
than
exactly.
anything else.
Exactly.
It's, yeah.
Like the lady today who wanted
Yeah.
to use a laptop, had some
Mhm.
work to do. Yeah,
Mhm.
makes sense.
Sure, absolutely. All right, so, well, maybe we can, because we're gonna be done early, maybe we can reach out to Warren and find out what the plan is for
Okay.
tonight, keeping the building open.
Yeah.
So, I mean, does it stay open all night?
I don't know.
Well, during the storms it did, I don't think we had a caretaker. I mean, bluntly, what happened today is John ended up being the greeter for a couple hours, and I did, and we probably, which I have no problem doing, but we might want to define this a little better. And,
Right. I
Yeah.
think we need to follow up. I don't think tonight's a big issue. It's a warm
It's
night
warm.
relatively,
Right,
but we do need,
okay.
I know Joe Freitas came up one time and spent the night, and
Yeah, it's,
nobody showed, well, one person showed up, and
Okay,
well, and that'll get us to 2 PM tomorrow, and then, I mean, if need be, I can come by after 2 tomorrow for a while.
hopefully the electricity's
Hopefully
on by then. Yeah, I can come by too.
all right.
Okay.
Well, and I can reach out to Warren too and see if
Yeah,
they can cover it, because they're right up here anyway. They've
Yeah.
gotta be on call.
And I think your question, I never thought about
Yeah,
what
I
they do for
don't think
electricity.
that they do have power. Okay, so board's goals for coming year, financial management. We finished our CIP plan and all of that, so I think we're in good shape with that. Anything?
And the warrant from Collins came for the last $10,000.
Oh, did it? Okay.
Good.
And she's gonna give us that in a Word document so that we can edit it as things change.
We didn't have a list of the warrant payments tonight, so we'll have that next week, I
Okay.
assume. Yeah.
Well, you triggered something. I notice we do and other towns do, when we put up like the permitting forms, the earth removal,
Mhm.
et cetera, they're done in PDFs. And you can't go in and fill those out.
No,
And I just wonder whether we should be doing them in something like Word that most people
you
probably
could probably do Word in a protected document where, no, they can't change any of the fields, but
Right.
they can enter, they
That
can
would
fill it
make
out.
sense to me.
Yeah,
Maybe we should have Bree.
yeah, because you'd
follow
have
up
to
on
have that
that.
Adobe program to
Exactly,
do
and
it,
it's
and it's not
expensive.
cheap, yeah.
Yeah.
So, the last time we looked, it's $400. We do keep fumbling over it. It would be nice to have that, maybe in next year's budget.
Yeah, for us anyways, but I'm thinking of the average resident who says, geez, I want to,
Oh,
fill
yeah,
out
yeah.
something.
Yeah,
Mhm.
absolutely. But even converting all the old documents, if we had that capability somewhere in this building.
Yeah, that would be nice. It'd definitely make it more user-friendly. All right, and then we're gonna be working on a grant for, well, actually, I can wait till grants. Public safety.
So, Public Safety met last week. What the OPM and architects had been working on is cutting down. They had an estimate that was way over budget. They have cut 600,000 out of it. They got 200,000 to go to get the estimate down. The OPM still thought that was doable, more work to do on reducing some of the site cost, electrical, and finishes, but it is that slightly difficult stage of taking away some things and going to slightly more moderate cost. He was comfortable that over the next couple weeks that they would be able to do that, but, it is being a little bit of a challenge, and but things are moving along, assuming they're able to do that out to bid in a month to a month and a half.
Wow, terrific.
So forward it moves, slowly but
Nice.
onwardly. And they meet next 9 days from now, and I'll hang out with them.
Okay. Grants, we had talked about the possibility of applying for a shared services grant through the Community Compact Program. you remember when the deadline is?
Yeah, I've sort of just put that aside.
Well, you've got a lot on your plate. Do you want to
No,
give it to me and I can get started on it?
if you don't mind doing it.
Not at all,
Okay,
yeah.
Okay,
Yeah, send it my way and I'll,
yeah, I sort of forgot.
start
about
working on it. Okay, so I'll get going with that one. Okay, anything on, volunteerism?
that. Really? Well, no, go ahead,
Yeah, you go for it. I think you started it. The PHS and Garden Club?
Yeah, so PHS is in abeyance right now. We have Jessica Kinsman as the president. We really don't have a board. And, these clubs go through cycles. Right now, we're in a down cycle. I mean, we really need a board. We've got the old town halls, which is looking pretty shabby. And we've talked about doing things like the PHS has talked about. Potentially coming forward with a plan, which we roughed out. Needs windows. Those, I think, will pay for themselves because we lose heat like
Mhm.
crazy. But also needs a thorough, taking the paint off and repainting it, replacing clapboards. We've also looked at the well issue.
Mhm.
That may or may not fall under, where we go. And then the roof, ultimately, though in the short term, in the next 2 or 3 years, it doesn't seem like that's a major thing we have to take on. The town owns the building. There is a question if we go forward with these kind of repairs, who pays for it? Quite frankly, the Historical Society doesn't have the maintenance money. Okay? And these, in a sense, in my mind, are capital items. We've put something in front of Conservation Preservation to see, whether it could be done. There's a potential maybe for some grants out there. But what we really need to do is put together a board. We need a board that can address a lot of these things. Jessica's got a lot of good ideas on events, open houses, that we need to bring it in. One of the things we're looking at is the Tales of Old Plympton. That in the book, it says it's copyrighted, it's the copyright of Plympton Historical Society. Would be great if we could publish that in the paper and.
Oh, sure.
so to get people into, a lot of people can move here and they're really interested in, how did Plympton come to be? But without a board, those things aren't gonna happen. And I think we need to reach out and get some interested people. And Mark has, thought about some of that.
So I'll add a couple things. Community Preservation Committee's looking at the proposal that's come up. We're going to meet with the PH, John, and the PH president in about 3 weeks. We already are on work on a couple of consultants, one that potentially could be for free, and I'm waiting to hear back from him. So we're taking a look at that. Just in the bigger picture, when my wife and I moved here 15 years ago, I think the first person that reached out to us was Edwina Woods, who was president, I think it was probably the Historical Society then. She immediately started recruiting my wife, and within a year, she was president of that. But we ended up at those PHS meetings, at the Garden Clubs meetings, it's when we really first started meeting people in town. And I was thinking this the other day, I work for the Community Preservation Committee. The name is Community Preservation. We do that through tax funds and all that stuff. One of the best ways for community preservation is a robust historical society and a robust garden club. So I hope that maybe we could get to the point of a strong board to get started. But boy, it would make so much sense if there were a robust, each of those were robust enough, people could go to meetings, and kind of a way to perpetuate the cultural heritage of the town. Sorry, I'm a little on my soapbox, but.
We have lots of volunteers in a way. CASA, you look at the different programs, the Boy Scouts, the Girl Scouts. It's amazing. the Eagle Scouts we have in town. It's just amazing at some of the things. But there is missing a piece to kind of bring them together.
Yep.
That, I remember some of the events, like, there would be these, once a month, what would you call them, pickup suppers, or,
Yeah, potluck
know.
suppers?
yeah, just, bring a plate.
They were
and-
great. The garden club one, they'd have a guest speaker, everyone would bring a potluck thing. It was cool to see what everybody was
Right.
cooking and bringing, and there was a nice lecture, and you get to meet everybody.
I don't see why we couldn't do something and not have it, so it's not just the garden club or the historical society, but in some cases, it would be a more general, that might interest a lot more people than, people have some preconceived notions of, the historical society is ancestry. But we want it to be bigger than that.
Mm-hmm.
We want it to be the history of the town, kind of how Plympton got to where it got to, and. So I'm just rattling on, but we
Well-
need people to help us. We need insights and,
It'd be kind of nice to, people that are new in town, to invite them to these
it's
functions.
a good idea.
So that because it is hard, especially as an adult, to meet people.
It is.
It's, you meet people through your kids at the school,
Yep.
in activities, but, some people, if your kids are too young, or your kids are older and they're not in school, it would be a neat way for you to meet some townspeople.
Some towns have a little package when a new person comes in
Yeah.
town.
Yeah,
It must be nice to have one of those put together that you could give them as a way of an introduction to Plympton.
mm-hmm, yeah, it would be nice, kind of a little welcome wagon,
Yeah,
like they
yeah,
used to do. So,
So something to think
something to think
about.
about.
Maybe a town administrator would.
Maybe, and I'm sure social media could help with that. But what about the front door? Are we gonna get that fixed before winter comes?
Probably not.
Okay,
Um,
so you wouldn't be making a decision and spending any funds with CPC until next fiscal year?
right.
Okay,
No way around that. Very frustrating. It slows the whole thing down terribly, but it's the way it
and they
is.
don't have any money to pay for a front door at this time?
Well, no, they do. The one thing they have is Mrs. Dennett's, what she left to the town, and that's $30,000.
That's a lot of
I mean,
money.
it's not. And what we're trying to do is go through the process of seeing if we can find monies without having to tap into that. The maintenance piece of it, because there's really nothing going on, other than what comes in, a lot of people just sign up, they send their $15 in just because it's
Mhm.
Plympton, and,
Yeah,
but that's not a lot of money. It's not gonna pay for those kind of things, and we're,
And of course, we have to remember, the building is the town's building.
Right.
It's not the historical size building. They lease it for $1 a year, and have been really good about keeping up maintenance, but especially if they're struggling, ultimately, it's our
well then,
responsibility.
why don't we get that door fixed? Don't we have money in buildings and grounds?
Building and grounds
I mean,
might
the
be the
door's
one
not
place we have some
secure.
discretionary money.
That's a big
as
problem.
long as it falls under our purview, I would say, yeah, let's
do
go
it.
for it.
Let's do it.
The one thing, John Williamson has seen, obviously we want the door to be in character with.
Right.
He has seen at Williamsburg, I guess, where they have these doors and they're historically correct.
Mhm.
And they have a combination lock, but you can't see it from the outside. Apparently it has a gap and you go into the gap and do it. That's where we should be.
Why didn't we get a price from John about some
Let me
doors?
speak to him, yeah.
Yeah, and let's try to get this done before it gets too cold.
Great, no, that's great. I'm glad you guys are on board. That's
Okay.
Great.
terrific.
Good.
Okay. All right, so
maybe
volunteerism, looking
that's-
for people.
Sorry, maybe that's a piece that also, in our budget next year, we have to more realistically, we have to be careful, we don't want to be spending money needlessly, and we certainly want to keep the tax rate as moderate as possible, but it's kind of our, delayed maintenance is the surest way to spend huge amounts of money. And maybe
Exactly.
we need to include that in the buildings and
Right.
grounds budget line.
And we have had cases where we thought we had some people who might rent it for weddings and they look at the outside,
Right, and it's our building, and it reflects
part of our history,
poorly
yeah, it is.
on the town.
Yeah.
Okay,
Okay?
all right, technology.
I really have nothing. Michael is off on vacation. I guess when
Okay.
he's back, we'll try to get him going again.
Okay, And social media, we're just gonna kind of wait and see till we get our town administrator and maybe move forward with that then.
And she'll be very excited about that.
It'll be a great
Get on my
tool. I don't think we've got any minutes. I
No.
didn't see any.
No.
So we'll hold those, and I'll let Bree, we definitely need those, because we can't get too far behind here.
One thing I gotta ask, I thought we would have it tonight, is, for the projector. We
Oh,
still have to
right.
send a letter that says there was a vote of the board.
The letter is on Pre's file cabinet for each of us to sign.
Oh,
Right, So
okay.
let's sign it
So
tonight
it's
then.
signed, okay, great.
Okay, and then we can throw it in the mail. Okay, all right, so that's all we've got for open session. We're meeting in executive session with the Board of Assessors. So I don't know if you guys want to take a recess.
Yeah, why don't we take a recess? Do we want to move that to a smaller room just so we're not running the
Sure.
lights off the generator?
Yeah, sure. Maybe we could even go down there. We'll just put up a little note that we'll meet with the
Yeah,
Board
or
of
the small
Assessors.
Oh, we don't even have
Or
to
the
put up
small
a note
conference
because
room.
it's an executive session.
Okay, all right, exactly, okay.
So we're
Okay.
in recess until executive session.
Well, yeah, we could, actually, we could adjourn
Yeah, why
open
don't we
session.
adjourn open session?
And then we'll, can we do that? And
Yeah.
then we'll
Yeah.
reconvene in an executive session. Okay. All right, I'll make a motion that we adjourn, or that we, adjourn open session for Monday, October 30th. And we'll see everyone next week. Oh, rants and raves. Anything?
I have a rave.
Okay.
With the storm, always get up early, ride out to get a coffee. So I get down the road, and I can't get there. And every place I go, there are public employees. It's either police, fire, highway, which is great. They're out there early. It was early in the morning, and so I have a rave for all our employees that are out
Public
there.
safety?
Yeah, they did a great job, I think, and, they're still out there.
All right, my rave is the people that have participated in the Housing Production Plan Survey. This is our plan, and we need your input so that we have a plan that reflects the community's goals. So thank you for everyone who has participated. You've got one more day to vote, so, and you can only vote once, otherwise I'd say vote early and often. But, vote once and let us know what you think, and we'll try to include your wishes in the plan.
Yeah, my rave's for that too. We've been talking about housing forever and forever and forever, and you have finally got that moving. And
That's great.
Well, it's been a team effort. Everything we do is really a team effort, and, I think that we're getting things done.
I think we are.
cool. Oh, there's
Check and
that.
check.
We're getting things. That's like a campaign slogan, ready to go.
All right, now we'll adjourn. All right. See you next week.